Hi, I'm Patty McMahon. I am recording this early on Sunday morning. Um, I think it's September 24th. I've literally been at the Great American Beer Fest all day. And I came back to find out that there's been a lot of internet drama going on, social media drama going on today. And I wanted to address that. The reason I kind of felt it was important to tell you that I was at the Great American Beer Festival today is I my life is being interrupted a lot with this social media drama. And I would really like it to stop. And I don't know how to make it stop. I don't participate in the drama. I don't interact with any of the people involved in the drama. But it won't end. And so I've decided just to break my silence about everything causing the drama. And I'm hoping that maybe that will stop the drama. So I guess the easiest way to say it is everybody who has been trying to force me to talk wins. If that's what it's going to do to let me have my life, I will talk. But when they say great ideas don't require force, the fact that I am talking proves that theory wrong. I am being forced to engage in something I don't want to engage in because a handful of people have made a decision that they are going to engage in a war with me that I'm not participating in. So since I literally have no means of communication to even fight this war, I figure this is my only way to do it because I'm not going to go on a podcast. I'm not going to do a debate. I'm not going to write a blog. I'm a private person. I like my privacy. And I'm going to keep my privacy. The fact that I'm being forced to give that up is very troublesome to me. The only reason why I am giving up my privacy now is because something that was said in the social media post that I really feel has to be addressed. And that is something that was said about me and Wayne Harlows. Wayne Harlows and I, at one time, were very good friends. I made a decision to end our friendship. And I'm not going to go into those reasons. But one of the reasons why Wayne Harlows and I were friends was because Wayne Harlows had a very admirable quality about him that I wish more people had. And that was his loyalty to his wife, Karen Ann. And a lot of people would get annoyed with me because they knew I had Wayne's ear a lot. And they would say, why don't you talk to him about Karen Ann? And I would say no, because Wayne would defend Karen Ann no matter what. And Wayne knew that I respected that about him. And that I would never ask him to betray that loyalty to Karen Ann. And there were times where it wore on Wayne, that people would try to get him not to be loyal to Karen Ann. And I would encourage him in those moments. And I would tell people, you know, everyone wants someone like Wayne Harlows in their life. We should all wish to have a spouse like Wayne Harlows. So the fact that there is this horrible rumor floating about me and Wayne Harlows, there are a lot of things you can say about me, and there are a lot of things you can say about Wayne, but don't float that rumor, because that's the most untrue rumor that you can float about either one of us, especially because that's the one thing that our friendship was really founded on, was the respect on that, is that we both have a very strong moral compass. And the fact that this would be challenged bothers me, and I know it's bothering Wayne, and it's something that neither one of us are able to fight unless one of us comes forward and fights for the other on that one, you know, because this is his marriage, and you don't mess with a person's marriage, especially not someone who is this loyal and this much in love with his wife. Please, people, don't touch that. Please don't touch that. Don't touch that. It's not right. Now, that being said, let's talk about all things that everybody wants to talk about that apparently they won't stop talking about. And it's literally wrecking my life. And I want it to stop. So we're going to first talk about everything that led to my censure. Now, I believe I was censured for being a whistleblower. Some people say, well, no, that's not right, Patty. You were censured because you were calling us Nazis. So we're gonna talk about both of those. Did I call anybody a Nazi? No, I never called anyone a Nazi. That's if you can find one place where I called one person, single person, a Nazi or a white supremacist, I'll give you money for that quote. Now, did I say I'm the end of the play of Nazis and white supremacists and that and the LP? You bet I said that. Now, did I have a problem with Jeremy Kauffman? Yes. Did I think Jeremy Kauffman made racist tweets? You betcha. So we're going to go back in time, and I'm going to go through the whole process of everything I went through, trying to explain and trying to be heard about my concerns. Because I didn't just run to the press. In fact, I never ran to the press. But we're going to talk about that one in a second. But one of the things that I hear often, and I heard often, and it comes up often, is that there is a right way to complain in the LP, which, by the way, is bullshit. There's no right way to complain anywhere. When you're dealing with public officials, they don't dictate to you how you complain. When you deal with public officials, you dictate to them how you complain. They don't tell you anything. That's what a public official is. They serve the people. People don't serve them. And if they don't like how the people complain, then they shouldn't be public officials. And if you don't believe that, watch how our people, libertarians, complain to public officials who are not libertarians. Because I do not ever see a libertarian going to Governor Polis privately and expressing their problems. I don't see that. I see that the libertarian courtesy is only extended to libertarians who, by the way, the libertarians like. I don't see them extending that courtesy to libertarians they don't like. So there is no right way to complain. When you serve the people complain the way they feel most comfortable, because it has to be within the comfort zone of your constituency. So when they say, well, there's a right way to complain, there is no right way to complain. As a constituent, I had every right to complain the way I felt the most comfortable. And that is what I am, by the way. I'm a constituent, was a constituent. I'm no longer a constituent because I'm unaffiliated. But while all this was going on, I was a constituent. And I was a dues-paying constituent, and I'm a lifetime member of the LP. So my voice should have been heard, and they should have been taking me seriously, because I wasn't just a member of the LPCO. I'm a lifetime member of the Libertarian Party. So all of that was ignored. So going back, we're going to go back to when I first started complaining about the messaging, and that was to the LP. And that was way before Reno, because I didn't like it. And this happened back when Jeremy Kauffman first made his tweet about on Martin Luther King Jr. Day about Black people owing us. And I flipped out over that. I did. I couldn't believe that. And I complained to everybody privately. And I also did a Facebook post on it. Now, after that, I went to the Reno. And I confronted Jeremy Kauffman on it. And during that confrontation with Jeremy Kauffman, he got hot with me, and he called me hysterical, and he told me to quit my job. I mean, he was not nice about it. And by the way, he was with a group of men, and they were not nice about it either. As a matter of fact, they started to harass me. And when I say they started to harass me, I mean, they started to harass me. They started dancing around me. They started calling me names. They started getting in my face, asking me if I was going to cry. I mean, they were very, very mean. In fact, they were so obnoxious that there's a state coordinator named Mike Ross, and he's a big guy. And I don't know Mike Ross, but Mike Ross was across the casino, and he saw it, and he came across the casino and asked if everything was okay, because it was making such a ruckus that he came over to make sure I was okay, because I was the only woman there, and I was literally being assaulted. And Mike Ross came and protected me, which he has my loyalty because of that, and he knows that. And after that happened, they all kind of backed away. And Jeremy Kauffman, to his credit, he left. His mom stayed, but Jeremy Kauffman left, and so did Robbie the Fire Bernstein. I think that's his name. But he left too. Well, actually, Robbie left before Mike came over. But this was really quite the scene. Ross and I were already facing backlash from these tweets and from this messaging. And we were told, don't worry, things will get better after Mises takes over. And we were like, okay. Well, things didn't get better after Mises took over. As a matter of fact, it got worse. Okay. So I started going to people in the LPCO, and I said, and Wayne knew this too. And I started telling people, look, this is getting bad. You have to take care of this. And they kept saying, don't worry, we're going to take care of this. It's not a big deal. Well, okay. And everybody kept telling me it was just me. It was just Ross. He was the only one having these problems, because nobody else was having these problems. So we were like, okay. And then we had a candidate meetup. And that's when I found out all the other candidates, except for one, were literally having the same problems we were with this messaging. And it was all coming from New Hampshire. And it wasn't all coming from New Hampshire. There was some coming out of the LPCO, but it wasn't the offensive messaging that we were facing. It was other types of messaging that was bothering some of our constituents. But actually that we could deal with. I mean, that was easy enough, because that was more like, well, that's what that candidate's saying, but that's, but it really wasn't, it was a different type of messaging. And that really didn't bother us as much. Anyways, again, I went back and I started talking to people in the LPCO about it. And again, I was told, well, it bothers us too, but what are we going to do? And it was like, say something, do something, help our candidates out. And again, all this was private. I didn't go public. After the election, we decided to do a public comment. And again, this is what we're told to do, right? I mean, when you're told to do comments, you're told to go to the person, and you're told to do like privately to, to your affiliate, write letters, do emails, do all. So then we did the next thing. We did public comment, and we didn't just stomp into the LPCO board meeting. I texted Wayne first and I said, can we come? Are you okay with that? Can you block out time for our public comment? We wrote out our statement so we'd be very clear and concise. I mean, we did everything right. And we walked in, we were polite. I sat down with Wayne, again, we did the blocking, we did everything. I mean, we were there, we sat there, we listened to people. As a matter of fact, when we were done with our testimony, we waited till everybody was done. When they finished their meeting, we got up, I said goodbye to David Aiken, I said goodbye to Gavin. It was like, we were fine. And actually, as we were leaving, one of the constituents in the room asked us if he could talk to us. It had nothing to do with our testimony at all. It had something to do with, I think it was gun rights or something. I can't remember, but it had nothing to do with our testimony. And so I think that individual went back into the room, and then we quietly left, and we couldn't have been more respectful. Then suddenly, social media blows up, and we just get eviscerated for this. And it was like, wait a minute, what? We did everything right. I mean, first of all, we got interrupted in the meeting, and we were told we were screaming, and we weren't screaming. There's like, literally, Dan was told to speak up. And then we were told, like, well, there's a right way to do things, there's a wrong way to do things, and you did everything wrong. And it's like, no, actually, we did everything right. But the narrative had already started, like, look how unreasonable you're being. And it's like, no, we're not being unreasonable. We're actually being very reasonable. We keep talking and no one's listening to us because you're not agreeing with us, because you disagree with us so much that you're refusing to listen to us, and you're trying to paint this picture that we're being unreasonable and our message is correct. As a matter of fact, everything we said is apparently everything that other people have been saying across the country, including Michael Heiss, who said he was losing business because of this stuff. So apparently everything we were saying was absolutely correct and true and being said across the nation. We weren't saying anything different than anybody else. So why were we being eviscerated for it? Then the interviews with the newspapers start in the media. And we had some beforehand. But more and more, we start having this media with Dan. And here comes the problem. And this is where I think the real disconnect comes, is that for some reason, the LPCO got it in their heads, and so a certain group got it in their heads, that we were running to the media, feeding them this stuff about racism in the LP. We never had to feed the media anything about racism in the LP. That was all the media wanted to talk to us about, was racism in the LP. They didn't want to talk to us about the great Mises, Ludwig von Mises. They didn't want to talk to us about Rothbard. They didn't want to talk to us about the NAP. They wanted to talk to us about racism. You know why they wanted to talk to us about racism? Because that's all they heard about. See, what the blinders that the LP had on was stunning. When we went to the board and said, this is what we're hearing, this was what the media was hearing too. This was what Michael Heiss was hearing. This is what everybody in America who heard about the LP was hearing. I don't understand why they didn't think, when reporters were interviewing them, this would be the first questions they would be asking a candidate. And they wanted to know about it. The only thing we could do was mitigate the damage for Colorado. And we tried to mitigate the damage for Colorado, but that became very difficult because they wanted to know, did you ever talk to Colorado about this? Yes, we did. And here's the thing, and I want to make this clear. My reputation professionally was on the line. Dan's reputation professionally was on the line. Ross's reputation professionally was on the line. And if you think we're going to lose our professional reputations to protect people who weren't listening to us, you're wrong. See, that isn't fair to us. And so with that, we told them, yes, we were complaining, and no, they weren't listening to us. Now, the Libertarian Party of Colorado can be mad at us for that, but they're the ones who didn't listen to us. They're the ones who ignored us, and they're the ones who harassed us after we complained. Now, the way it should have been handled is they should have taken it into consideration. They should have listened to us. There was a whole lot of ways they could have handled it. But what they should not have done was harassed us for complaining. Because when they harassed us for complaining, when the media said, were you harassed for complaining? We had to say, yes, we were harassed for complaining. What are we supposed to say? No, they didn't harass us for complaining? Come on. You can't treat people horribly and then say, I can't believe they told us that they treated us horribly. We never made up one thing about the LPCO or the LP. We never did. The media asked us, we told them. The media was there watching the whole time. Why the LP was not aware of this, I don't know. Which brings me to the Westward article. That was, and still is, the biggest gaslighting the LP has ever done on a general member. So we're gonna break that down. I did an interview with Gavin, who was the LPCO treasurer, and I did it in March, and I don't even remember the year because I get that mixed up. But it was before the convention where Dave Smith spoke. So what was that, 22? And in that interview, Gavin brought up, he was talking about something, and he brought up a fundraiser. And I knew about the fundraiser, and because I'd gone. And he said that he had that it became an LPC, it was a Mises fundraiser, and it had become a LPCO fundraiser in December, on December 6th, I think he said. You'd have to go back and watch the video. But the video is still up, by the way. The video, the interview I did with him, it's on the Jefferson County Libertarian Party YouTube channel, and it's been up since March of 2022. So it's always been up there. So it's not a secret. So the media could see it anytime they wanted. And so this isn't a big secret. And by the way, the board meeting, which approved the funds for this fundraiser, it's been on the LPCO YouTube channel too. So all of this is all on video. And this is why this is like so stunning to me that the LPCO doesn't realize that all this stuff is on video. I mean, reporters can look at it anytime they want. It's like they think, like, for some reason, reporters don't have the ability to watch podcasts and live streams. Anyway, so I did this interview with Gavin. And in this interview with Gavin, he brings up this fundraiser. And in this fundraiser, he says that it was a Mises event until December 6th. And I knew that wasn't true. I knew that wasn't true. I knew it had always been an LPCO fundraiser. And so I said, wait, hold up, that doesn't sound right, you know. And so I started questioning him on it. And the more I questioned him on it, the more lies he told. And I knew they were lies. And so that bothered me. And the next day, Ross and I, because Ross was the chair and I was the outreach director of Jefferson County, we did another candidate interview, and that was with Jacob Luria, who's a campaign director, who's also Mises. And I brought it up to Jacob, and I told Jacob, look, I had this interview with Gavin, it didn't sound right. And and I told him about it, and Jacob said, well, that didn't sound right. And I said, yeah, could you just look at the video, and could you, get that, could you have the board clear that up, because there's something wrong about that. And Jacob said, yeah, absolutely. And that was that. And I thought the matter was over. Now, let me tell you, before I go further, where my head was. I knew there was a lot of anger going on right at that point, because we knew, there was the Reno takeover and all that other stuff was going on, and everybody was hostile and angry and blah, 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 blah. And I was already dealing with Colorado, because I'm not Mises, and trying to convince people that, look, if you're going to go to the convention, go to the convention, but don't go to the convention to, overthrow Mises. Go to the convention with the attitude that you're going to work with them, you're going to work together, and you don't want to overthrow people. I mean, that's just, if you do that, you're going to have hard feelings, and and it's just, it's never going to end. You have to stop wars at some point. And so I knew that there was a lot of this tension going on. And so when Gavin started talking about this, this fundraiser that was Mises's before December 6th, I knew that wasn't true. I knew it had never been a Mises fundraiser. I knew it had always been an LPCO fundraiser. And I thought, well, why is he lying about this thing with Mises? That doesn't make sense. And I knew that, and he was talking about like $1,000, like, there's $1,000 that would have been raised. And I remember my friend Alan had told me that no money had been documented in Tracer. And so here's Gavin talking about this $1,000 that had been raised by Mises, but it hadn't been documented in Tracer. And that sounded like fraud to me. And I have friends that were on that LPCO board that were Mises. And my first thought was, he's setting them up. And I didn't know what the penalties were, because I don't know anything about that, but I wanted to protect them. And so that's what I wanted. And it's the only thing I wanted. And I thought I was doing the right thing by going to Jacob, because Jacob was one of the people I wanted to protect. He's Mises. And no one ever cleared up anything about the Treasury thing. And okay, I don't know what to do about it. I mean, what do you do about that, right? Because I don't know anything about Tracer. And I talked to Alan about it, and we started thinking, well, maybe Gavin just lied about the money. I mean, there's nobody's documenting this money, so maybe it's all just a lie. And so maybe the money doesn't really exist, and maybe he's just trying to set them up for something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But they didn't seem concerned about it. So, okay, we just let it go. I just let it go. I didn't know what to do. So I let it alone. But okay. So now campaign's over, everything's over, and now we're in December, January, and Beatrice Sutton wrote something in a Facebook page about finances. And next thing we know, there's like this whole hoopla over the finances. Again, I don't know anything about finances. I don't care either. Except for at some point, my interview with Gavin comes up. And people start asking questions like, what was this money with Mises? Why was Mises, we can clearly prove that, it wasn't a Mises thing. I mean, so why did he lie? Why did he lie? Where was his money? Why did he lie? And they're asking me, and I'm like, well, I don't know why he lied. Actually, I've been wondering the same thing. No one ever told me. And I don't know what was going on. And so, and so I come back, like, I actually kind of do want to know what was going on. Like, why did he lie? And again, at this point, I'm kind of sure the money never really existed. So now I'm just kind of wondering, like, why did he lie? Like, was he setting Mises up to, like, I didn't get it. Like, it just never made sense to me. Like, why did he do that? It just never made sense to me. And because it was just such a weird lie. And what made less sense to me, though, was that the LPCO never corrected the lie. And it's like, why didn't you correct the lie? Because you're all Mises. Well, most of you guys were Mises. So it's like, why weren't you correcting this? Because it looked like Mises had collected this money and like hid it. And why would you want that? I don't understand that. That makes no sense. It just made no sense to me. And I just, at that point, as a regular stakeholder, I just wanted to know the answer to that. Like, why would you lie about something like this? I mean, this is so easily provable. I don't understand why you're lying about this, because are you covering up something else? I mean, it made no sense. And again, I never believed the money existed at this point. And so during this time, a reporter starts coming around, and it's from Westward. And so she contacts me, and she's seen the interview with Gavin, and she wants me to talk to her about, about this. And of course, and by the way, she's in this libertarian activist group. And so she knows I'm being bullied. I mean, she knows it, she sees it. And she wants to talk about the harassment. And I tell her what's going on. I did not think that was going to be the story in Westward. It was conversation we were having. It was something that, like, I didn't really think about when we were having that was going to be the topic of the Westward story. I thought we were going to talk about the interview with Gavin. And so nobody was more surprised than me when that Westward article came out. As a matter of fact, when it came out, I called Alan, and I was so flipped out over it, because I try very hard to keep a low profile. That's why I don't do interviews or anything. I don't do a lot, because I don't like to be in the spotlight. And so having something like that was really alarming to me. And I didn't know what to do with it. And so that was a very disturbing moment for me. And then was more disturbing was the way the article framed it. It looked like my problem was with Colorado when my problem wasn't with Colorado. And so 2 days later, I wrote a post which Katie, in the group in which Katie was part of. So Katie was in the Colorado Libertarian Activist Group. So I wrote my post in the Colorado Libertarian Activist Group, which said clearly, I don't, this clearly was not about the libertarians in Colorado. And I clearly said that there is a libertarian in Colorado that's a white supremacist. I never met them. I don't believe anybody in Colorado is a white supremacist or a Nazi or anything like that. I think libertarians in Colorado and the Mises people are great. I said, but I did say that they have some of the stuff that has made it easy for them to come in. And I wish they wouldn't do that. And that's something I told Colorado. I made that clear to Colorado. I said, I think you've made it easier for white supremacists to come in. And by the way, I'm not going to lie to the press. I'm not going to lie to anybody. I don't talk behind people's back. But what I also don't do is that when I tell you something, and then somebody says, hey, what do you think of this? I'm not going to lie to them to protect you when I've already told you something's wrong. I mean, that's not what I do. It's not my job to protect a political party from itself. So let's be clear on that. I'm a constituent. I am not an officer. I'm not an elected official. I hold no position. I don't have to protect the party. That's not my job. So when a reporter says, do you think there's a problem with racism in the party? And I have Jeremy Kauffman saying that he thinks Black people owe, America, or he thinks that lynching IRS agents is a good thing on the day that they signed the Emmett Till, anti-lynching bill, or if he says he should be sending Black people back to Africa or they can shut the F up. Yeah, I think there's a problem with racism. I don't have a problem saying that. If there's a problem with sexism and they say ban the 19th Amendment. Yeah, I think there's a problem. I'm not going to protect the LP. I'm not. Now, if you're going to ask me, do I think Jeremy Kauffman's a racist? I'm not going to tell the press whether or not I think Jeremy Kauffman is a racist, because that's between me and Jeremy Kauffman. See, that's a different thing. That's a personal thing. But as far as the political party, I have no reason not to say I have a problem with this in my party. I don't protect a party. And the fact that the party thinks that I owe them that, that's a very misplaced value. The party owes its constituents. Constituents do not owe the party. And the fact that you believe that is very disturbing. So, that being said, when Katie asked me about that, I told her how I felt. And I'm never going to apologize for that. But the party owes me an apology for the fact that I went to them over and over and over again. And at no time did they take any of my complaints seriously. As a matter of fact, every time I complained, what I got an excuse for why my complaining was wrong. What I got was an excuse for why I should be less sensitive. And it's had never took into account that maybe my complaining may be a larger part of a larger picture that everybody else was seeing. Because later on, when I heard Michael High saying, look, we're literally losing money. And Dave Smith actually said, there's nothing libertarian about what you're saying. People are like, oh, you know what? Maybe we should, watch the rhetoric. And it's like, wait a minute, how come when I was saying it, I'm getting censured? Because we like Dave Smith and we like Michael Heiss and we like Daniel Winograd. But you know what, Patty? We don't like you. And that's the other elephant in the room. Because I was asking, why aren't you bringing this stuff up with the finances? Now, I had no idea what was going on with that money. But I knew they weren't being honest. When I filed my complaint with the Secretary of State, I did it after I was censured. I would have never have looked into what was going on if they wouldn't have censured me. As a matter of fact, if they would have actually, there are so many things that I wouldn't have done if if certain people in the LP would have just backed off. And just remembered, I didn't owe them anything. And as a constituent, I was allowed to ask questions. For example, if they would have just said, oh, you know what? People, everyone, because I wasn't asking for myself, I was asking on behalf of everyone. Why did Gavin lie? That was a reasonable question to ask. And if they would have come back and said, you know what? Here's the thing. We looked into it. Gavin was mistaken. This is what happened. And you know what? People lie. You know, we don't know what to tell you. We looked into it. Here's what happened. And by the way, this is what really happened. What happened was that when Jacob set up and by the way, it was Jacob, which I didn't know this when I went to Jacob. It was Jacob Luria who set up an Eventbrite account when the money was deposited, and he didn't set it up to capture all the pertinent information. And you know, that was a violation, but it's not that big of a deal of a violation. And so that's okay. But what ended up happening is that the money got deposited into a bank account, the LPCO's bank account, but it never got put into Tracer. And you know, it was just an oversight. It happens, but it sat in the bank account, and it's just been there, and it just needs to be put into Tracer. And that's why it looks like this money just disappeared. And it's like, oh, so it's been in the bank account the whole time. It's like, yeah, but the reason why you don't know that is because you don't have access to the bank account. But the money's been in the bank account the whole time. But none of our constituents know that. So if you gave money, you went on into Tracer, you wouldn't see that donation showing up. So it looks like they stole your donation. Yeah, it looks like they stole your donation. See, I didn't make a donation to that, so I never thought to look for it, and I wouldn't have known how to look for it. But my date did. See, my date paid $70, $35 for him, $35 for me. See, his donation didn't show up. He had every right to wonder what happened to that money. So did a lot of other people. See, they had an obligation to tell people what happened to that money. The fact that they didn't tells you something about what they actually thought about all of us. Oh, sorry, all of us who asked. And the fact that they went out of their way to vilify me for asking, that says something too, because this was an easily solved situation. And I'll never understand why they went through such lengths not to say this is what happened, because it was very easily solved. After they censured me, everybody started calling and saying, and by the way, when they censured me, I was in Miami. Well, actually, I was flying home from Miami. I wasn't even here. I didn't even know what was going on. How's that? So after they censured me, people were like, there's got to be more going on. And that's when they started telling me about straw donations. And so I started looking at it. And without any of the information that I just gave you, because I didn't know anything, what it looked like is that what I had been complaining about was a straw donation. And that's where it looked like what they've been trying to do all this time was shut me up so that I wouldn't put it together that there had been a straw donation. And that's when I started realizing that if this was a straw donation, that maybe somebody was going to go to jail. And that's why I thought they were actually after me. I would not have pursued that Secretary of State claim if after my censure, they would have left me alone, but they didn't. A couple of days later, Forrest's mommy goes on a Twitter rant about me. 2 days after that, Karen Ann Harlows does a podcast where she tells people I'm not fit to be in polite society. And she starts just flailing out lies about me. And I start getting threats, genuine threats against me to harm me. And that's when I started thinking, this is not about what I said in Westward. This is about this straw donation. They're going to kill me. I mean, I really started thinking this. And that's why I went to the Secretary of State. And I even said, I am afraid for myself now. I think they're going to hurt me. You know, I honestly don't know how honest any of them are. And I don't honestly care. It's not my party. I quit it. But I know this. There was a whole lot of effort put there to terrorize me. My goal when I interviewed Gavin, when I first started this, was to protect Mises, protect those people on the board, because I thought Gavin, what he was saying might hurt them. And there were people on that board I did not want to see hurt. That was a mistake on my part. I should not have cared whether or not they got hurt. I'll never make that mistake again. The only thing I want is to be left alone. Regarding Forrest's mommy, Jessica Fensky, I've never met her. I've never talked to her. I've never engaged with her on social media. I don't know her. I have no idea why she does Twitter polls about me, why she's glad that she got me out of the LP, or why she was part of that. I don't know. I don't care. But I want her to leave me alone. Jacob Luria, I don't know what happened. I, honest to God, don't know what happened. I thought we were friends. I'll never make that mistake again either. I want nothing to do with the LP. I think it's full of very damaged people. And I think they make very bad decisions politically. And when I say they make very bad decisions politically, I mean things like what happened with me. Obvious things that are easily solved and remedied, and should be easily solved and remedied. The hills they die on are absurd. The thing with Gavin could have been solved very easily. It should have been solved easily. The minute they found out that Gavin was saying that there was this money that, $1,000, and there's somebody saying, well, wait a minute, he just said this, that should have been immediately resolved. Once they realized that money was in the bank account, that should have been immediately resolved. They shouldn't have waited for Secretary of State, because even the Secretary of State said, by the way, because when they make this claim about, Patty filed this false complaint, it's like, I didn't file a false complaint. I filed an untimely complaint. According to the Secretary of State, they even said she should have known that this was going on because it was so illegal that they didn't even file this until April of 2023. It was so illegal. The fact that she didn't know this, we find it unbelievable that she did not know this, and I didn't know it. because they did. See, that's the thing. They always knew it was illegal. And they still didn't remedy it. Why, I don't know. But they got away with it, so what does it matter? And that's the part that bothers me about the political party. It's not a political party I want to belong to, which is why I'm unaffiliated. And they're probably like, we're glad she's not part of it. Good. That doesn't bother me. And I think that's the part that I really need to get clear, is that it doesn't bother me that you're okay with me not being in the party. Please stop talking about it. I don't talk about you. And I'm going to finalize it with Chase. The reason I hosted a cocktail party with Chase is because I was asked to. That's it. And here's the thing. I actually offered to throw the party the day after the Liberty on the Rocks event. I asked Steve, and Steve said, Chase is coming in. I said, hey, okay, well, I can throw a cocktail party. Let's throw it the day after, Thursday, because Liberty on Rocks was Wednesday. And I said, let's throw the cocktail party on Thursday and let Chase invite everybody. That was my original idea. And Steve said no, because Chase has to fly home on Wednesday. So originally my idea was to do that. I wasn't going to invite anybody. And then he said no. And I said, okay, well, then we're going to do it on Tuesday. I said, well, what do we want? I said, because I can't do, and I said, I can't do a fundraiser because of my job. I said, I can do a cocktail party. I can do a meet and greet. And it's like, well, who do you want? And he said, well, I don't know, we talked about it. And I said, well, because I don't know I don't go to Liberty on the Rocks. I have a very limited guest list because I haven't been part of the LP. And it was like, well, and I told Beatrice, invite, we talked about, it's like, let's invite all the chairs of all the affiliate chairs, and we'll do that. I thought that was right. And then I invited all of my, allies from all the other parties. I thought that was right. Because I figured, we want Chase to meet everybody. Now, I did leave out people. I said everybody who voted for my censure was not allowed to step foot in my house. I didn't think that was unreasonable. Because I didn't say everybody, like, because I said everybody who voted for my censure. And I thought that was fair. So like Hannah Goodman, she was welcome in my house. Wayne, he was welcome in my house. The current LPCO board, they were welcome in my house. Everybody who voted for it wasn't welcome in my house, but I think that's fair. So it wasn't, and we didn't broadcast that either. That was just between me and Beatrice. We didn't broadcast that to anybody. We kept that just between us. Now, only one person who voted for my censure actually RSVP'd, and I privately emailed that person and explained why their RSVP was being rejected. And I told them it's because you voted for my censure. That was it. And one other person RSVP'd who had been saying things about me online. And I said, I'm gonna decline your RSVP, and here's why. So there are two people I declined, but I was very specific about why I declined it, and I told them. But other than that, it was like, yeah, I didn't have a problem with anybody who came. And to me, it was not that big of a deal. It wasn't an exclusionary event, but it was an exclusive event because I have a home, and it turned out it rained that night. So we were in the house until about, I'm going to say 7:30. Then we all went outside. Everybody just gave up and just went outside. But, because it was my home, it was not a political event. I wanted to make sure that it was not overwhelmed with just political people. I wanted to make sure we had a good mix of people. So, yeah. But it wasn't that I was like touching people with wands and saying you're blessed. No, like a lot of people were here. It was great. It was wonderful, and we loved it. We had a great time, and I think it was a great mix of people. And some people did not show up. I wish they would have shown up. I think they would have had a really good time. I think they would have made some really great connections. The people that did show up, I think it was really wonderful. I think they made some really great connections, and I think everybody had a really great time, and I didn't realize that it was going to cause as much drama as it caused. Regarding the Hatch Act, I have to say that I am aghast at how that got brought up. And by the way, again, got to throw this out. I just wanted to throw a cocktail party and bring people together, and I thought it would be fun, and everybody did have fun. But I had to talk to my boss about that. I had to tell my boss, and I had to make sure that I wasn't going to lose my job over this. And I've had to fight for my job a lot because of politics. I decided to host a party, a Libertarian party, during the shutdown, during the pandemic, when the Governor Polis had ordered us all to stay in, and somebody doxed me. They called my agency and told my agency that I was hosting a party. I don't know how they got it. Well, I was on the invite on the webpage, and I was told, you got to cancel that party. And here I am again, like the Libertarian Party and my principles and blah, 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 have in the last 3 years has been a nightmare for me. When people talk about fighting for liberty, it's like, I get it. Doing podcasts are hard. But for the last 3 years, I have faced losing my job on several occasions because of my principles and my beliefs, and having stupid things like cocktail parties because people won't stop trying to get me fired for them. Please stop trying to get me fired for them, because I'm not doing them anymore. For the people that are still involved with the LP, I wish you well. For the people that are on the board, or plan to be on the board, or run for political office, I wish you well. But I please ask you to leave me alone. I don't know what more you want from me, but I'm not going to do podcasts. I'm not going to do interviews. And I'm going to talk to any reporter I want to talk to whenever I talk to them. But I don't see that happening. But if it does happen, I have that right as a general citizen. And unless you think that when you go talk to the press about Jared Polis, that he has the right to bring the entire Democrat Party after you and try to destroy you in your employment and in your life and in your social life. If you don't think he has that right to do that to you, then check yourself at what you're doing to me, because I'm not a libertarian. So you have no right to do this to me. I don't belong to your party. I'm not part of your club, and I don't want to be, because I think you're pretty horrible. You don't represent me, and I don't want you representing me. And I'll say that to any news media I want.